Hey everybody. Just thinking of the verse from James 1:17 to where it says every good and perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, in whom there's no variableness nor turning. That's like every good and perfect gift is from above. And you're just kind of thinking about that. And like there's things in life that we assume are always going to be there. The people that we love, the work that we've built, the home that we return to each and every day. It's kind of like those routines that quietly hold each and every day together. Our health, our strength, which is ultimately all of our it's a sense of control. It's self-worth, if you will. And we kind of move quickly through life believing that there's always going to be more time. There's always going to be another opportunity. There's more ordinary days to come. And I think because of that, we often fail to notice the gifts that are surrounding us while those gifts are still in our hands. And we complain. we complain about what we perceive that we lack. And we fail to see what we already have. We look at the situations around us. And it's kind of a thing of our culture, right? This culture that we're in, feeds that to us constantly. We're taught to search for the newest and the latest and the fastest and the next best thing, right? How many of us are on the iPhone plan to where, as soon as the new iPhone launches, we get to have a new copy of it because, God forbid, our phones are 2 years old. We can't have that, right? And we're in this culture that it's kind of like a throwaway society, that if it breaks, we don't fix it, we replace it. If something becomes difficult, well, we just simply move on. We don't fight for it, right? We live in this world that struggles to slow down long enough to recognize the value in things before they disappear. And, sometimes we just don't realize what mattered most until loss kind of strips it all away. And over the past several years, this is kind of what I've been dealing with. And grief has taught me this in ways that I never expected. Like I've shared before, losing my husband kind of changed the landscape of my life completely. It just, it unraveled all of these things that I once assumed were stable. And that kind of went into the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter. It was all of these things that I thought were stable. My marriage, my career, my position, a home that I owned. All of this structure that I spent years building. And it all just boils down to the illusion of control itself. And so in the middle of it all, in the middle of all of this grief, this loss, I began to realize how much I quietly had taken for granted. And it wasn't necessarily out of selfishness. I think it was simply out of familiarity. I took for granted hearing a voice. I took for granted waking up healthy. I took for granted having meaningful work. I took for granted having a place, having a home that felt secure. I took for granted ordinary meetings and ordinary mornings that just seemed unremarkable. And so loss has a way of making us slow down long enough to see that. Suddenly the small things become sacred. It's the warmth of the sunlight. It's the sound of laughter coming from another room. It's the quiet conversation. It's the touch of a hand. It's a familiar drive home. It's the bird song. And it's kind of the comfort of just being able to breathe deeply and rest. And so, yeah, in James 1:17, it says every good and perfect gift comes from above. It's not just the dramatic blessings. It's the ordinary ones too. It's the ones that we overlook. And if we look in Philippians 4, in Philippians 4, Paul speaks of learning contentment in every season and learning how to be content in each situation. And if we think about that, where he's writing that from, he's in prison when he writes this. He's in the most destitute of situations, and yet he talks about being content in every season. Not because life is easy, but because he finds his strength isn't from the situations and circumstances, that his strength comes from above. And because contentment isn't found in having everything that we want. Contentment's found in recognizing the grace that's all around us at each and every day. And Jesus talks about this, right? Jesus talks about this in Matthew 6. And he says, look closely at creation. Look at the birds. Look at the flowers. Doesn't God clothe them in beauty and splendor? And so it's like he's pointing to this provision that's woven into the natural world from God. It's like creation itself becomes a reminder that God is already caring for what we overlook. And maybe that's why grief changes us so deeply. You know, grief equates to loss. And so grief can be the loss of a loved one here on earth. It can be the loss of a job. It can be the loss of a relationship, a divorce, an unmet expectation. And yeah, that's why it changes us so deeply, because it removes distraction. It strips away the illusion that we built. It teaches us what matters. And it's not perfect. It's not instant, but it's this gradual change that we see. And so the things that we rushed past now slow us down. And we begin to understand that life isn't built by achievements or possessions or titles or our plans, but life is built from the moments, the relationships, the presence, the mercy, the gratitude. And it's love quietly lived out day after day in the ordinary. And Ecclesiastes talks about this, right? It reminds us that there's a season for everything. Seasons of building and seasons of loss and seasons of mourning and seasons of health and healing. And yeah, none of us would choose pain, but there's truths that only suffering can uncover. And these truths, we learn compassion. We learn dependence, we learn gratitude, and we begin to recognize how deeply blessed that we were and that we are in every season, and even those things we considered ordinary. And so it's kind of like the irony that so much of the time that we spent searching for something, it's already been around us. Because not every gift is wrapped in all of this excitement, but sometimes it's quiet, and maybe it's been beside us for years and we just failed to see it. I know that's my case. Thinking of the song, and I heard it the other day, Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell, and it's an older song, but it talks about they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. And they put all the trees and put them in a tree museum and charged the people $1.50 to see them. And don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Could you imagine having to pay $1.50 to see a tree? Could you imagine having to go to a museum just to see the natural world? And yet, we so easily fail to recognize the beauty and the stability and the grace that is around us until it's gone. And yeah, so loss can become a teacher, and it opens our eyes to the sacredness of things woven into the ordinary. And so maybe gratitude isn't found in getting everything that we want. Maybe gratitude comes from us slowing down long enough to recognize the grace that's been carrying us all along. So I hope that this was encouraging. I pray that you are blessed. And I ask you to like, follow, and subscribe and share this with somebody else who needs the encouragement. And I thank you and I praise God for you. Have a blessed day.